Welcome to the Block Exploring Podcast, your first step into the world of crypto and blockchain. The Block Exploring Podcast is your one-stop place to find quick, clear, and unbiased information on everything in the crypto space. Our goal is to help you grow familiar with the crypto space by growing along with us as we go on our crypto journeys. Follow @Block Exploring on Twitter for our newest uploads and our publishing schedule. We, here at Block Exploring, are crypto enthusiasts working hard towards becoming experts. Today's podcast is presented by co-hosts Tommy and Elias. Find us on Twitter under @SabaiSquared and @BatokoCrypto. Right now you can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Before we start the episode, we would like to inform you that we are not financial advisors. Therefore, nothing said in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Always contact your financial advisor before making any investment. With that said, sit back and enjoy today's podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 8 of the Block Exploring Podcast News Bytes. I'm here with Tommy, and today we're going to talk to you about the past week in crypto. We're going to be talking to you about how the state of the market is, how it's a bit in flux, it's doubting, it's a doubtful market, the bears and the bulls, they're fighting it out. We're going to talk to you about the Burgerswap Flash loan attack, and we're going to be talking to you about institutional involvement in cryptocurrency investing. Now, Tommy, let's kick off the episode. The market this past week has been quite tumultuous, if that's a nice word to use.
It has been.
What's your sentiment?
Yeah, I feel like there's just two ends of this. There are people who are, or maybe three actually, let's say there's like the one group of people who really think this is not the end of the bull market, this is just a blip. And so later down the line we'll have a DeFi summer, we'll have a L2 summer, we'll have the war of the L1s. There are those who think we might have a bull run that runs into 2022. So the bulls, the bulls are still here and they're still loud, but there's those who are just, a bit concerned, those in the middle who are like, okay, yeah, I want to be bullish, but I'm also like, yeah, this is a bit scary, and then there are those who are like, yeah, this is like, we might be in a bear market and we're, in a very unsteady situation, right? And I feel like I fall into the first group, which thinks that this the crypto market still has a lot of energy in it and is will be able to sort of pull back from this, or there's just a lot of announcements for different projects that are coming in future that will allow for the market to rebound harder, and maybe Bitcoin, ETH reach all-time highs. But I'm also aware it's a bit scary that, for example, Bitcoin rejected the 42K price point, which is scary, because a lot of people were counting on us to break through that level for us to, have that bullish momentum to keep going. Because we've had a decent recovery. I don't think that's undeniable. We've had a decent recovery from what was over 50% drop. But, it, like you said, it's uncertain. You sort of just have to I think, make your bed as to how you feel about it and just act accordingly. But for me, I feel like I'm still bullish. Of course, bullish on crypto long term, but in the short term, I think there's still some energy. But what do you think? I think we might differ on this.
Yeah, I think I'd be on the cusp of being bearish. Why? Because I don't know. I feel like the dip that we experienced and the correction that we're in right now, I fear that it's something of a bull trap. So the reason why I think this is because I see every single major crypto influencer still kind of hype up the market, and the idea I have is the average crypto influencer with a large audience will be bullish on crypto very easily. And if I see that happen, I see I'm not gonna call anyone out or anything. You have perma bulls in the space who are always bullish on the crypto market, no matter what.
That makes
Bitcoin
sense.
could be down 50% and they're still bullish. but I think for the short midterm that we're gonna go through a small correction. Then perhaps maybe over the weekend, maybe next week, I feel like the market's gonna go down a bit more. Why? Because I see, if I look at like Etherscan, if I kind of look at the movement, if you look at things like Whale Alert on Twitter, you see a lot of large movements of like top 10 cryptos go towards the exchange.
Yep.
Which is for me a signal that people are on the cusp of selling large quantities.
Right.
And if you look at, there's this standard graph that a lot of people kind of quote for how the market in crypto especially develops, is you have the all-time high that gets hit. That's like the moment the mania hits. I feel like the mania has hit. I feel like that was the Doge mania.
Yeah.
And then there's always a dip right afterwards, and then there's a slight correction upwards, as you're seeing right now. I feel like that slight correction upwards is what is commonly referred to as the bull trap. So the people who are very bullish, they kind of move towards that momentum. They think, oh, we've been down before, we can just like recover from this one, and then it goes down more. And ideally, I'd say, I want to be bullish, but I feel like there's a lot of doubt, and doubt for a very long time never is good for prices in the crypto space.
And I think, those are all valid, reasons. I don't think anyone has maybe there are some unvalid opinions, or unvalid, reasons for feeling bullish or bearish. Like you said, these perma bulls, but maybe that's just like from a perspective. It depends on perspective, right? So maybe you are able to be a perma bull, if your perspective is like 10 years. If your perspective is 20 years, maybe then I would then be like, I'm bullish, But short-term bullishness is it's rocky footing at the moment. But I think if we map this current bull run against 2017, it's very similar. It's almost uncanny how similar those two are, like how similar those graphs are printing out. And at the moment, it just doesn't seem that we are at that level. There was also like this huge dip in 2017 that a lot of people are now, making the comparison of like right now and then. But then after that, we saw all-time highs, right? And I'm not saying that history repeats itself, but there was like an influencer who was saying that history at least rhymes. So it's I think we just have to watch the market carefully, because we are our current bull run is the latest bull run, obviously, and like it's unprecedented, especially like the amount of accessibility to crypto and all that. I think it's just very hard to predict what's going to happen, and that also adds to the FUD and why people are so uncertain, because anything could happen, and that's the risk you take when you get into crypto anyways.
That's true. And I think for what it's worth, I think that the prices that are being achieved right now, like the lower prices, it's a good buying opportunity in general if you're trying to hold long term. There's some good dips, and I think if you buy at this time of uncertainty, it tends to be a good time to buy if you're holding long term, even though it's near all-time highs still. I mean, the market's down like what is it now, 30% compared to the all-time highs. I think it's still in the next bull run, the all-time highs most likely will be outperformed.
Exactly.
So if you're buying 30% below all-time highs now, maybe in 5 years you'll be at a very nice position.
For sure. And it's like, I think we've mentioned this before, which is like just having awareness of who you are in this space. Like, are you a day investor, day trader? Are you a swing investor? Are you just a long-term hodler? Are you building in the space? Like, what are you actually doing in the space? Because that guides your perspective. Because if you're a long-term hodler, then these price points, really don't matter if you're long-term bull, of course, the prices matter, but you know, in the long scheme of things, if you think Bitcoin is going to go 500,000, 1 million someday, I mean, what Bitcoin is now really is, you know, change. Like,
Yeah.
exactly. But you know, if you're building, it's sort of the same thing. But yeah, exactly. If you're a trader, you know, then you really have you know, watching exactly what's happening right now, and it really matters what the sentiment is currently.
Yeah. No, that's true. I agree. I think I think I was kind of looking to kind of build my position on how the market's doing.
Yeah.
And if I look at something like easily acceptable crypto that a lot of people know about, I would expect, in case of like still very high confidence in the market, I'd expect something like Dogecoin to be bought up a lot right now, because right now Dogecoin is relatively like low in price, you know, compared to all-time highs. I think it's like 29 euro cents. I think it was like 40 euro cents at its all-time high. I'd expect people to start like gathering Doge right now because they feel, oh, the market's still doing great. I feel like kind of the investors, like the hype investors, the people who would buy during a mania are like a good sentiment report for like the majority of the investors.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out if like where to go from here. I feel like if you're buying long term right now, this is a good time to buy. You might be in the minus if it crashes for a while, but it's still relatively a good time to buy. I feel like short and midterm is too high risk for me personally to really like go into at the moment. I think maybe over the weekend, maybe over the next 2 weeks, we'll see kind of like a direction in which we're going, you know?
Right. It's just interesting to see the market lag, especially with Biden's announcement of like a 6 trillion budget, you know, for infrastructure and other related things. You know, a lot of people would tend to be bullish, you know, in terms of crypto when, you know, the money printers go brr and, you know, they start printing money all over the place. That tends to be a really good thing for the crypto market. But this time it just doesn't feel that it's actually had that beneficial impact for crypto. So that's interesting, because stocks, on the other hand, have been recovering pretty well. I mean, stocks since, I don't know, March have been down quite a lot. But I mean, it's not like they're doing great now, but they've definitely recovered while crypto is in this like limbo state, especially meme stocks. Shout outs to the meme stocks.
Yeah. No, that's true. I over this weekend of this week, I've been thinking a lot about kind of like how do you read the market based on sentiment, right? And I'm looking at like a bunch of as I mentioned, a bunch of influencers and kind of how they react to the market. And I see that the tweets have become a lot less predictive. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the past, I saw like a bunch of people tweet stuff like, I don't know, like Cardano to $2, Doge to 50 cents, that kind of stuff, like fairly in a bull market, fairly easy to predict numbers, just based on the direction the market was going, you know?
Makes sense.
Now I see a whole lot less like of these short-term call-outs, like, oh, this coin is going to get this high target. You don't generally hear people say stuff like, oh, you know, like market's going to drop 80% or something.
That's not a hype tweet. If you could downvote on Twitter, I think that would get a lot of downvotes.
Yeah,
but I like to say I called a $2 Matic, just saying.
That's true. You did.
Yeah, but that's
in a volatile market. So.
Right? So, yeah, take that, influencers. But it's interesting how influencers do use social media to actually track sentiment, and some people do trade based off of that. I know quite a few influencers ask their fans, is that the right word? Audience, I suppose. Like, you know, for what bags are they holding? What cryptos are they bullish on? What are they, you know, what DeFi protocols are they using? And, you know, I think that's, I mean, if you're an influencer and you have like a large audience, I think that's such a good tool, you know, for them to have, I guess, like you could, maybe it's an idea, you know, to code code something that tracks these influencer tweets and like the responses. It's probably something that you could compare to Lunar Crush. Lunar just takes the same thing. I mean, takes the same data as that you would receive from that doing that.
No, that's true.
It's an idea.
I just maybe as like a wrap-up comment on like I don't know, like influencers in this market. I think there's one thing people should take into account is that people who are large in the crypto community, who are like dependent on their audience to quite an extent, it's in their best interest to be bullish.
Yeah.
In a bullish market, they'll have a large audience because more people will want to buy, more people will have a need for information. In a bearish market, their audience will shrink a lot because people won't be investing in crypto. People won't be as hyped about it, as interested in it. So I think you should always, even us, take it with a grain of salt, because these people they're more dependent on having an audience than as an income flow than you might expect.
Than their gains.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine that. Yeah. No, that's so true. And there's that thing where people would say like, in a bear market, there's like no information, no content on crypto. But in a bear market, there's literally there's literally no shortage, of it.
That's true.
But let's talk about this another BSCL. This Binance Smart Chain projects, it just like don't seem to catch a break. Like last week it was Pancake Bunny, and now it's a Burgerswap. And Burgerswap experienced this flash loan attack, and the people who did it made off with 7 mil.
Ooh.
That's a decent chunk, of cash. Quite the booty to take home. But I don't know this is like, I don't think this is really good for BSC. This doesn't bode well for BSC projects and the chain in general. Like if like multiple, like we know like DeFi projects and protocols can be subject to these things if they're not equipped to defend, or if their code isn't solid or whatever. But to have multiple projects like in such a close span of time, like experiencing such attacks, it's like very bearish. If that's the right word.
And it gives kind of like an insight into how secure is the Binance Smart Chain as well, right? Because all of a sudden you see several of these exploits just surfacing out of nowhere. And it kind of makes you think like the largest or like the most booming projects recently, of course except for Ethereum, have been on Binance Smart Chain. Like if you look at a Pancake Swap, like anything that did like a very major 10x 20x in the past few months was on the Binance Smart Chain. So that gives you kind of like, I don't know, makes you feel a bit like dubious on projects that are mainly based on the Binance Smart Chain, but it maybe also will just lead to faster development of the security.
It's quite dubious. I mean, hopefully that is the case. That projects emphasize more on security, because like if you're an anonymous team and you also are subject to these attacks and that, I mean, that's just a double whammy to yourself, to your project, in terms of user confidence. And that, I mean, for people who don't know what happened in terms of what is a flash loan attack, so what the attackers did was create their own fake token and formed a trading pair with the protocol's native token Burger, and ultimately they ended up changing the latter's price. That's an L. So
a big L,
they traded in such a way that they were able to make off with 7.2 mil in altcoins, which is pretty devastating for the project. And I mean, we hope that these projects can come back from such attacks, because it's just unfortunate, to have built a community, built like a decent project, and for it to all just be wrecked, by some bad actors. It's just like super unfortunate, and like it pulls it pulls the DeFi space back. If they have to, this is like a risk that constantly needs to be acknowledged in an investor's mind.
Yeah, that's true. And there's still, these things happen. If something like this happens and there's like foul play, when you trade regular stocks, there's regulation.
Right.
It kind of safeguards the investor.
Yeah.
And with crypto right now, it's not there at all, which is definitely one of those things where you think there should be. Whereas a lot of people like the fact that crypto isn't very heavily regulated, it also gives more independence from governmental influences, etc., etc. Proper legislation on crypto is something that is most definitely needed. I think it's essential for like a solid trust bond as well for people to actually put their money into crypto.
Yeah, and projects
for the future.
And or projects, they just need to build in more security mechanisms. Like, they slipped my mind now, but I know a lot of projects. They built in a lot of security mechanisms and many points of security which can't be breached, whether it's the people who are developing it, they themselves are not even able to make changes that would be detrimental to the user or themselves. But then if they have that kind of, if they've rid themselves of that kind of power, then other attackers aren't able to exploit that than themselves.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true.
Scorch the earth mechanism where someone tries to attack the system, just everything dies. That would be hilarious. I mean, not a protocol I would invest in, but would be funny.
That's true. But it also shows that I think especially something like the Binance Smart Chain, it's been very smart in having such low fees. But at the same time, you see maybe, it comes at a bit of a cost. Security cost.
There's some definite drawbacks, which is, I mean, it's good that, like the fees are low, but this is why other L1 solutions, I think, will just win out in the end. I mean, we can't discount Binance.
Of course.
But like, that's why a lot of developers, will still be Ethereum. Once Cardano opens its doors for smart contracts, we'll be there. Solana, all these L2s like Polygon. This is why decentralization matters. Like not overloading your nodes matters. Validators, this all matters.
That's true.
Well, we'll see what happens. Rip Burgerswap for the minute.
That's true, and hopefully the institutions, or at least the governments, will start getting a bit more involved and get a bit more on regulating, these kinds of things with crypto, because, an attack like this, that's just theft, and the average investor, like, I don't know, if a company goes under due to like some really dubious management or something, there is some investor protection. There are some acts, especially in America. The SEC is really on top of that with protecting especially the non-institutional investor. So like the guy sitting at home behind his PC, the day trader, that they're a bit protected, and that's not the case right now in crypto. But that's definitely something that should be the case in the future.
I mean, as more institutions hopefully come into the space, I think more regulators are going to be incentivized or prompted to regulate. And that's also another, I guess, debate in terms of how interested are institutions in getting into crypto. Because in this bull run, I think we've seen, way more institutions getting into crypto than ever before, right? And we see like huge investors like Carl Icahn. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Carl Icahn. He's hinted at putting 1.5 billion into cryptos, which is huge for a single person to put in. And not that he's an institution in himself, but 1.5 bill is huge. And
it's what an institution would do.
Yeah, exactly, right. And but a lot of other institutions have also bought in huge. MicroStrategy has been dollar cost averaging forever. Tesla's been in it. PayPal, Square, all these are institutions who've bought into crypto. Visa, MasterCard, these are all companies who are interested in crypto. Those last two, I don't know if they've actually put Bitcoin or any other crypto on their balance sheet, but institutions this bull run have been in. But there's kind of, Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful Shark Tank investor, he thinks like institutions are not even thinking about Bitcoin or crypto in general. He thinks like, I mean, there's some, but like as a whole, institutions have only some institutions are even beginning to start thinking about Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and not even going further than that. Like literally Bitcoin, this is already like, them like, going over to the dark side, so to speak, I guess. Which is an interesting take, because I think in the crypto community we're just like, institutions are in, institutions are manipulating, whales are doing this, that, the other, but this is I guess maybe a reality check. I mean, I don't know how much everyone, puts weight on Mr. Wonderful's word. I mean, I think he like credits himself on not being, he being honest all the time and never bullshitting. And that's kind of his thing. So I think someone to maybe listen to, but obviously take everyone's word as, with a grain of salt. But I think it's interesting take, definitely.
No, I think so too. And I think that especially his point on, it's all about DeFi, so decentralized finance, is a very good point.
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah, and especially for a large company, the companies that are getting into Bitcoin, the large players that are getting into Bitcoin, like a Tesla, they're getting into Bitcoin to take a long-term financial position and to safeguard probably against something like inflation, and also to safeguard against regulatory impacts on like their car manufacturing. It's kind of like buying an insurance in the form of digital gold, right?
Right.
It's not really as a use to use it. It's not really as like an actual investment like you would make in a stock. It's not because they think that the tech is great that they're buying it, or that it's a good investment opportunity with a reasonable what do you call it, risk margins. They're buying it because it's a safeguard. And there are so many other cryptos out there that may be way more relevant for instance, Tesla to buy, like a VeChain, for instance, like some actual very high use case, easy to use, easy to adopt, logistics-based crypto blockchain solution would be a very reasonable and normal investment for a company that is in kind of like the distribution space as well. For them to be interested in, and maybe for them to invest in and also use, but they're not doing that because it's too volatile right now. And I think you can only really speak of institutions are getting into crypto once institutions get into other stuff than just Bitcoin. And I'm not talking like a Grayscale or a BlackRock. Those are just like institutions that invest in general in crypto. But once like an average Joe company starts starts going into lower cap cryptos like top 10, let's say top 10 is a very
that's a good start
statement. That's when the real mass adoption comes, I feel, because right now it's just Bitcoin is like it compared to other cryptos, it's just the start. It's like very, very much, it's like saying someone put on a sock, so they basically put on a shoe, so they're basically running. It's kind of that argumentation.
Makes sense. And I think this is actually maybe a good thing for the crypto space, because it's not like we can say all crypto like investors are in and this is it. Like this is where the market's at, and institutions are not fully in. So if we can think about when we get to a point where institutions are fully in, like I think that's extremely bullish in the long term, with everyone is, I think, easing up on the idea of not institutions but crypto space in general. But I think it's extremely bullish that not all institutions are in yet, and they could be in future. I mean, then we can talk about, then it's actually real what, it feels like now, in this bull run. Yeah, institutions are getting in, this is great. This is why like the market's like this, but they're not. So if they actually are, then that just means so much more hype for crypto in general. And I mean, I think maybe there's just like an education that needs to be had within those circles, like these institutional circles, where, I mean, a lot of institutions invest in gold, for example. And Mr. Wonderful was talking about how he and his holdings company or whatever might even eliminate their whole gold earnings for Bitcoin and DeFi, and that's pretty drastic, actually. But what he says, it makes a lot of sense, because he says, like, gold is not something you earn interest on. Like, it's just not. Like, it's an asset that you hold in the bank, and hopefully it goes up in value. And if it doesn't go up in value, you actually pay price to hold this gold. Like, you pay wherever it's being held in a bank or whatever.
You pay a fee for the storage costs.
Exactly. And that's so it makes you a loss, like a permanent loss, at a permanent loss if you're losing money, fixed loss when you're losing money. And that's when gold price is down. And that's not the case with Bitcoin or any other DeFi token. He's very invested in DeFi, if because they can have their digital store of value, which is Bitcoin. It's like digital gold, but they can still earn interest on that. It just wrap it in some ETH, wrap it in ETH and put it in some DeFi protocol and earn interest. And I think would be very attractive to institutions. It's clearly attractive for him and his holding. That's why they're allocating, more and more of their position in it. But
definitely. As an investment asset, I think crypto makes a lot more sense when you're looking at high yields than gold, especially. Gold is one of those things that you hold for like generations.
Exactly.
And then it really hedges you against inflation, but it's not an investment that the average company makes and has like great yields on. It's a very stable investment, of course, very safe. It's not something that
has been for thousands of years.
For thousands of years, people have never said, "Oh, the shiny yellow stuff, I don't like it anymore." It's something ingrained almost in human nature to like the look of gold or to value it to a certain extent.
Or maybe now in this younger generation, Gen Z and that, maybe this changes. Maybe it changes.
I don't know. I think like we've gone through a bunch of generations already.
I know, but even our generation, I feel like, really don't care about gold. Like, obviously they know it's valuable, but it's a very boomer thing to be still interested in gold.
That's true.
Our generation is not interested, and our generation is not necessarily interested in crypto. But I would say Gen Z onwards may be that generation who's more interested in crypto as an asset than gold, like as a general thing.
Yeah, I think
not that I'm saying the value would go away, obviously, for gold. Like, that's
no.
It's not gonna happen.
I see what you mean. Also, I think our generation is also a generation that doesn't like having cards in their wallet. This might be a very surface level statement, but I think one of those signs of like mass adoption or institutional acceptance of crypto is once an institution accepts something like USDT, USDC, UST, like the stable coins that are out there that are just literally equated to the dollar, which is a relatively very low risk version of getting into crypto for an institution. I think just accept USD stable coins, and you'll show a commitment to, or at least a sense of a fiduciary benefit of using crypto. You'll at least stimulate that. And I think the moment that becomes kind of like a norm, then you can talk about mass adoption's around the corner. Right now, no companies are accepting it, and a few very progressive companies are accepting, like Doge or Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin for payments. But those are like very progressive companies who also see it as an investment. Like receiving the Litecoin, receiving the Bitcoin Cash. They don't sell it off; they hold it. So
Yeah.
there's companies like that definitely see it as more like an investment and a payment, almost, you know?
No, that makes sense.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was it for this week.
Mhm.
Yeah, so stay vigilant. Make sure you keep an eye on that market over the weekend, over the next 2 weeks.
Mhm.
See if the trust returns or see if it kind of wavers. But until then, until the next time, keep block exploring and have a nice week.
Take it easy.